Good evening. The program is Extra. I'm Bill Lord. Tonight, Ted Bundy and cameras in the courtroom. And later, producer Carl Eidsvog visits with Sonia Johnson, leader of Mormons for the Equal Rights Amendment. You know, this summer, Ted Bundy's televised double murder trial in Miami gave us an opportunity to examine the issue of cameras in the courtroom. More than 20 states are experimenting with this idea, and Utah's Supreme Court may allow them in our own courtrooms later this year. In Miami, we found that the Bundy trial attracted local television stations from all over the country. They spent millions of dollars on the latest satellite technology, and you saw the most dramatic moments of the trial live in your living room. For 5 weeks, the top floor of the Dade County Courthouse was one of the busiest television newsrooms in the world.
We're accepting requests for live feeds between 11 and 11:30 and 12 and 12:30. At 11:15, we will draw for position in those 2 live blocks. Keep your pieces short so that we can all get on the air.
Smile, Ted.
We're in the newsroom on the 9th floor of the Metro Justice Building, 5 floors above the courtroom.
We are watching it all by television, as we have done throughout the trial.
This room is filled with reporters from across the country because this case has attracted nationwide attention.
We have somewhere in the area of 25 television stations here, including 3 networks, and they are representing somewhere in the area of 30 or 40.
Murder case against Theodore Robert Bundy, and we'll be here at the Justice Building to report on the verdict that comes this evening. Franklin, Newswatch 10, live at the Metro Justice Building. Right back to you.
They are coming out of the woodworks. And it is by far probably the largest organized daily transmission of material from one source.
You can't believe the circus down here today. There's about 250 bozos around here.
Do it.
Oh, I know he didn't. It's just absolutely impossible.
If the verdict is guilty of murder in the first degree, Bundy will be sentenced to die.
Here we go, 10 seconds, Frank. 3, 2, 1.
Is it killed?
Here it comes.
Following extent. 3, 2, 1.
We weren't getting anything except color bars, for Christ's sake.
Television news generally grew up at about the same time the electronics was coming around. You have great amounts of money being expended for highly technical equipment, and yet nobody seems to be worried about it because we're all of a sudden making money in television news. The electronics gear fit naturally with the satellite systems.
So I'm just going to tell them that all we need during that time is a satellite downlink for KUTV from 3 to 3:15.
1 minute. Checking's going to the bird in 1 minute.
You want an audio check? Has McKechnie checked audio?
Okay, Larry?
Okay,
We're on transponder 1. We have picture, bars and tone. We're fine, bars and tone. Get ready, Larry, it's coming up.
A lot of things can go wrong. You're concerned about mechanical things like communications. You have to be able to hear Salt Lake through your earphone. And it's a rather tenuous setup that fades in and out.
Can you hear Youngren?
Just have him say go when he wants me. You're also a little nervous about standing in a newsroom that has maybe 100 other broadcast journalists in it, and you're a little nervous about performing in front of fellow professionals and concerned about their image of you.
Stand by, get ready, Larry. Straight up.
This is Larry Warren reporting live from Miami, Florida, where the jury in Ted Bundy's double murder trial...
The signal travels from the ABC pool into a telephone company microwave on top of the courts building to the downtown headquarters of Southern Bell. The signal travels through the Florida stations, and finally it winds up in Atlanta. They send a picture to West Star 2, which is one of the West Star satellites.
Okay, we see you.
It is pulled into the KUTV facility by our dish, and just like tuning in a television station in space.
This is Larry Warren reporting live from the Bundy trial in Miami.
We're out of Genlock.
Okay, out of Genlock?
We have no idea how many feeds we have, but it is absolutely feverish today.
Hey, Ted.
4, 3,
2, 1. This case went to the jury at shortly before jury deliberate until midnight.
Ted Bundy committed the crime.
Arrest in Pensacola.
One which you say
Clear. Next up.
Okay, here we come.
There's been a few temper flares, but for the most part, it's been extremely calm.
CBS says, if we get the tape in the machine here, this is a highly technical process.
You're off center.
There we go. All right, we're up.
Anything I hate, it's a reporter that has some technical sense.
There's that little glitching up there, Jim, again.
Testimony from the
goddamn walkie-talkie. I ain't using the walkie.
They are in the truck.
Just receded.
Around there. What's the story?
Is anybody using a walkie-talkie on this floor? Shut it down if you are. You're breaking up the feed. Are you using a walkie-talkie? Shut it down.
Camera in the courtroom. Who started that?
Well, if anyone ever told you that television news was a quiet, serene occupation, you were lied to. But it is fast and accurate, and all this madness you've been seeing is far removed from the courtroom. Inside the courtroom is quite another story. A single camera silently eavesdrops on the proceedings. It is unobtrusive yet intimidating, accurate yet still controversial. Defendant Ted Bundy objected to the camera. He believed coverage of pretrial hearings would prejudice a jury, and he believed the news media was trying to lynch him.
Because the news media cannot behave responsibly, because they cannot report accurately, because they report matters which are inadmissible, because they prejudice the community. When this court has the power now, in advance of the causing of the risk, to avoid that risk by, in part, keeping cameras in the courtroom.
Trial Judge Edward Cowart denied Bundy's motion. Cowart believes the public has a right to see the conduct of the public's business, and he believes the camera is an effective tool.
The restrictions that the Florida Supreme Court has placed on it, and the guidelines and the criteria that we operate under, I don't see how it's going to impact a fair trial. It is a dissemination of media, simply as in print media that's always been in the courtroom. It's just a different form.
We are on the 9th floor, 5 floors apart from what's transpiring downstairs, close enough to it to be accurate, but far enough away not to disturb the dignity and the decorum of the courtroom.
And it's sad but true that the media thrives on sensation. And they thrive on evil, and they thrive on things taken out of context. The coverage of the news media has been a constant threat to me and my attorneys in an attempt to prepare a defense. It has jeopardized and I think in fact succeeded in influencing the final outcome of this case.
Most of the news people covering the trial did believe Ted Bundy was guilty. In fact, they were betting on a guilty verdict in a lottery known as the Ghoul Pool. We'll take a look at that right after this.